Lads, I'd really like to ask you, just finally, and I'm going to stick with Emile on this one to launch it off, any particular kind of unusual or quirky or funny stories that you can remember from your international days? And I guess there are two bits, Emile, I'd like to just quiz you on, if I may, please. And maybe nothing sticks. Maybe you'll have a good insight into this. But you mentioned at the front of the conversation that the talisman for the team so long for England was David Beckham. I remember during Germany 2006, he was under the weather, and it was a game in which he scored against Ecuador. He scored a dead ball against Ecuador, but I remember him actually, it was so hot and he was really unwell, and he actually was sick on the pitch, and you could see he was in real dire straits, and yet such was his total determination and focus to continue that game and captain England to victory, he wouldn't come off. And you could see them saying, the physios, the medics, whoever the guys are in the tracksuits on the side, saying, come off, and he's sort of saying, under no circumstances am I leaving this field. Do you remember that?
I actually wasn't in that tournament, but I do remember the game. And that's David Beckham through and through. You know, he puts his body on the line for the team, and he was fantastic for England and a great leader in that as well. You know, I'll give a funny story about that about him actually, and I think Alan was talking about coming to the stadium, having police and following us around and etc. So we would go for walks because you want to get out the hotel, and you can't just sit in a hotel for 6 weeks and expect the lads to be all at it. So we'd go for walks, and we'd go to the mall, or we'd go somewhere, and we'd take 6 security guards with us. 4 would walk around Bex, and 2 for the rest of us. That's how big he was. We used to have. I think it was the 2002. We had probably about 200 to 300 fans watching us train, and they all had the different haircuts that he chose. It was absolutely crazy to have that Beckham mania in Japan.
Well, I do seem to remember that around about that point in time when your correspondent had slightly more hair than I do now, I too was one of those supporters. So that is a tragic, but nonetheless totally true admission. Rushy, anything good from your international days that you remember standing out as a bit of an unusual happening? You said about the Georgian fans trying to intimidate the players there, where Neville Southall was thrown off his stride. Any other bounces from your career?
I think what I remember is that I used to always room with Kevin Ratcliffe, you know, when we were like big rivals, you know, Liverpool, Everton and all. And we used to room together. And when we played for Wales, it was brilliant. So we just talking, and we said what we would do next time we play. We made a pact, you know, before the game. It was absolute stupid. We just do this, nanu, just before the game started. So we said we had to do that. We made the pact to do that. So we played on the Wednesday, and on Saturday it was Liverpool-Everton game. So just before kickoff, Rats wasn't looking, so I shouted at him, and I just went like that, nanu. Then he done it back. But you should have seen the look on Peter Reid's face. He was looking, what the hell is going on here, by the way? So you're thinking, what's that? And I thought, oh, Rats is me mate. I swear to God, after 2 minutes, he just went, he just lashed me from behind. He said, that's for making me do that before. It was absolutely, Kevin Ratcliffe, every 5 or 10 minutes we played against him, he'd boot you. So I used to say to him, Rats, why did you boot me? He said, the referee, he said, he won't book you in the first 10 minutes, I promise you. So he was getting away with it. You got no chance in today's football, have you, about doing that? But Rats used to always do that, and he'd get away with murder. But I managed to get him back on that little thing with Peter Reid. Still talks about that now.
Who needs friends? Who needs friends? Which leads us very neatly onto our good friend, Mr. Alan McInally. Cast your mind back. Any unusual incidents, anything to stir the senses that you look back through the chapters of representing Scotland on your travels, moving around, any of the characters, any of the faces, any of the incidents that stick in your mind, Alan?
I think we could sit here for 4 hours if the lads and I would talk about some of the things that actually really happened. Gosh, I mean, I'll give you one really quick one. And he was one of the, I mean, we grew up together at Ayr United. He went to Liverpool, I went to Celtic. A guy called Stevie Nicol and Russia. I mean, there's been numerous amount of stories about Stevie. But this is a good one. So he used to eat crisps all the time. And you know the bags we used to get. So there were the big bags, all your kit you get, you take your boots and all that. And we get to, I can't remember where we're going. We're going to maybe the Yugoslavia trip or somewhere we're going. And Stevie's bag was going all the time. And we were like, what the hell you got in your bag? And it arrived, honestly, and he had like 50 bags of crisps and like 2 t-shirts and 1 pair of football boots in his bag. And you went into his room and there was crisp packets everywhere. And he still used to eat, obviously, with the team meals and pre-match and all that. And he used to carry these things, and his bag was always full of crisps. I know it's maybe not that funny, but when I look back now, I think, what in God's name are you doing, Stevie? It's unbelievable.
The diet of an elite athlete.
There's a famous one of myself. I used to room with Ali McCoist, and as obviously there's one particular room, and the boys will know that everybody has to go through before anything's allowed to happen. So Coyce and I would have a look at it and say, okay, yeah, you can do that, etc., etc. And there was one day, Andy Gorham, the goalkeeper, great goalkeeper for Rangers, just phenomenal. But with Jim Leighton, Andy Gorham, and Big Brian Gunn was the 3 goalies. And Andy hurt his back. And we're in this beautiful hotel. And again, like Emile said, there's guns there, guys with the guns. And the guy that looked after us used to carry a book with an elastic band around it. And we were always like, you got a gun in there, you got a gun in there. And he's like, no, don't touch the book. And we're like, come on, let us see. And he took the thing and he opened it up and there was a gun inside. And we were like, oh my God, I've never actually seen a gun properly. And they were properly like all over the place. Nobody could get in. So we're on this balcony and the pool's downstairs. And Andy Roxburgh, the manager, said, look, by all means have a bit of a swim, but don't be in there for long. It's warm, stay in the shade, drink lots of water, etc. We were playing hearts in this little balcony, and a couple of lads were getting massages because we're in the shade, to stay out in the sun. And we heard this doing splash. And we're thinking, who's in the pool? We were told not to go in the pool. Doing splashes. Some of the water's starting to come up as the splash is getting even harder. We look over the top and Gorham, Andy, sore back, don't go in the pool. He's on this springboard, bouncing as hard as he can, launching himself into the water to splashes all the water up onto the balcony. I mean, we were like, how's that back, Andy? He's like, it's okay now. I'm trying to get you as wet as you possibly can. And honestly, we were like, seriously, children, sorry. Great days, just great days.